So thank you all very much for making time today to be with us. Based on your interest in the BRIC grant, just to sort of cover some basics. Um, March 6th of 2026, there was a court ruling that restarted the BRIC grant funding program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. So what ICC Innovation is going to do today, we've brought together some subject matter experts on some solutions and ICC subject matter expertise on the actual BRIC grant program. So I will be discussing a few of the solutions personally, but we'll also have other staff members sharing their expertise with you. We'll go ahead and get started right out of the gate after I do the intro with our ICC expert on BRIC Grant, Aaron Levy. He has a presentation for you with some of the detail of the administration of the BRIC Grant and how to be successful with those. After that time, you'll come back to me and I'll talk about some solutions. And also with us today for presentations are Maria Dalal, Phil Anthony, Brian Hoodie. And then I'll sort of wrap it up at the end, and we will be offering a Q&A session at the end. So unless there's something that you really feel like needs to be addressed at the moment, we'll hold for questions at the end, and it will allow for a good use of time, and hopefully, we may be able to answer some of those questions you may have early on. So FEMA has reinstated the program, and this program makes it possible for jurisdictions to shift primarily from reactive to natural disasters and calamities and emergencies, to go from a reactive state to a proactive state. So it's an investment in solutions, technology, procedures, knowledge, what we can do to improve the ability for resiliency in the face of unpredictable events. ICC is uniquely positioned, frankly, to help jurisdictions with BRIC grant funding and the solutions themselves, because of our coverage in subject matter expertise, with hazard mitigation plans. We help with cost-effective solutions. We have technical and environmental and code expertise in-house, but most importantly, the reason why the one quadrant here is encircled in red is because of the expertise we have in the building codes themselves. These are the hazard mitigation plan, the cost effectiveness, the technical and environmental feasibility, and has to be centered on building codes, are all core requirements of successful BRIC grant applications. And Aaron will get into that in detail. Next slide. Graphic to just quickly emphasize, I mentioned that really building codes are at the center of this program. ICC facilitates the code authoring process. We offer tools to access the codes and to use them across solutions. And we'll get into some of those details in the solutions later. Next slide. So this is our ecosystem. We're going to be talking about several of these solutions today. And what this diagram really effectively demonstrates is, as you go through the community development process that these BRIC grants are aimed at, in solving problems in the face of an emergency. When a problem has to be solved, there are different steps in community development or rebuilding after a disaster. What this shows is that ICC really has all the bases covered. For every step in the development or rebuild process, ICC already has an existing solution, or we integrate with partners to provide solutions for these steps throughout the process. Underlying all of that across the bottom in gray is ICC's core code expertise. So not only in the authoring the code, reading the code, understanding the code, and applying the code, it's also in actually delivering the content itself, being the repository for the only trusted, authentic source of building and life safety codes for most jurisdictions in North America. Next slide. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition over to Aaron Levy's presentation on the BRIC grant program details themselves. So go ahead, James, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Aaron Levy. I am the Deputy Senior Vice President for Federal Relations at the International Code Council, or ICC. What that very long, I would say, bureaucratic sounding title means is that I am ICC's primary lobbyist and advocate in Washington, D.C. It's my pleasure to join you today and to tell you a little bit about FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, or BRIC program. Before coming to ICC, I spent almost 15 years at FEMA. I was around when the original BRIC program was passed by Congress and when the agency took congressional intent and then created this new grant program. So this is near and dear to my heart, as is the building code set aside, which is within the BRIC program, which I'll talk a little bit about today. So what's BRIC? So FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program is the successor program to the earlier Pre-Disaster Mitigation, or PDM program. BRIC now serves as the agency's primary pre-disaster mitigation program. BRIC is the result of the Disaster Recovery Reform Act of 2018 and is the outcome of years of frustration in Congress and amongst those in the emergency management space over inconsistent amounts of federal assistance being provided to states and tribes before disaster strikes. Following decades of increasingly more devastating and costly natural disasters, Congress established a pre-disaster mitigation program funded using a calculation of prior year's disasters, understanding just how much bang for the buck mitigation investments reduce disaster-related losses. So what does all that mean? Of all the mitigation activities, adoption and enforcement of modern consensus-based building codes has been proven to be an 11-to-1 return for base codes adoption and enforcement, and even greater returns on investments for above code provisions. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the BRIC grant logistics. This has been a bit of BRIC now. The BRIC program, a new notice of funding opportunity, was released on March 25th, 2026. The deadline for grants to get into FEMA is Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. Now, I hope you were paying attention to me as I started talking a minute ago, but now I really need you to pay attention. I want you to ignore that Thursday, July 23rd, 2026 deadline, because states and tribes, who are the primary grantee for BRIC, their deadlines are often sooner, are usually sometime in late May or June, because they have to gather all of what we call the sub-applications in from building code offices, state agencies that deal with codes and standards from all over those states, to then send that into FEMA. So it's really, really important that you go to www.iccsafe.org/BRIC or www.fema.gov/BRIC to figure out who your state hazard mitigation officer or the principal contact in your state level emergency management office, because they are the person who is going to be the actual applicant for your state or tribe for the BRIC program. So here's the cool part about this year. As it was in the previous years, there is about $81 million total set aside in something called the Building Code Plus Up. So while building code activities are eligible costs, which means that they're things that FEMA will pay for under the BRIC program and reimburse states for, the Building Code Plus Up, imagine a small bucket of money that is just for building code related activities. So no one else can touch it or can use it for anything else besides building code related activities. So when we say a sub-applicant, you're like, Aaron, dude, what the heck is a sub-applicant? Stop talking Fed talk. So what that basically means is it's building or fire prevention departments or other state code offices or agencies. So while the state emergency management office might be the primary grantee, if you work for another state office on environmental resources or the state office that's responsible for code adoption enforcement in your state, you're still considered a sub-applicant. So it's pretty cool. So this is a 75-25% cost share program, which means FEMA will cover 75% of the cost of the grant, and the state or tribe is required to cover 25%. And if you're still unsure what to do, and I imagine these for some of you who are new in the federal grants space, you can reach out to me or your ICC GR manager to help, or you can reach out to James and his colleagues. Go to the next slide. All right. So these are examples of previously funded code activities. And note the broad range of code actions at all levels of government. So here's the big thing I want you guys to take away as you're looking at this slide and as you go through the remainder of the webinar. Developing or acquiring software and hardware, as well as the software and hardware needed to do training around these issues, and to assist with plan reviews, permitting, inspections, and record retention. So acquiring the software and hardware to do it and training your staff on how to use it for plan reviews, permitting, inspections, and records retention, that is an eligible cost. What that means in plain English is across all of these programs, that kind of work with software and hardware acquisition and the training that goes into it, it's eligible for reimbursement under the BRIC program. And as you check out all of these examples of previously funded code activities, a lot of that work with software and hardware that goes around plan reviews, permitting, inspections, and record retention can really be applicable to a breadth and depth of projects, or it could be a project within itself and it's an eligible cost. So again, I'm Aaron Levy. I'm the Deputy Senior Vice President for Federal Relations at ICC. You can reach me at Levy, that's A-L-E, V as in Victor, Y, at iccsafe.org. If you have any questions about the policies around BRIC, or if you need some help being put in touch with your state hazard mitigation officer or your state emergency management officials, and we always say there's no wrong way to access ICC staff. So with that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your webinar.
So as I mentioned earlier, we've got some solutions we want to talk to you about beyond just the actual administration and the structure of the BRIC program. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is called Archistar. This is a partnership between ICC Innovation and Archistar. This is a proven solution. The reason why ICC went with Archistar, they had a mature product that had proven itself with some great pilots. They were an early solution for county and city of LA in California in response to wildfires. So when we talk in particular about tools that have already proven their value and their worth in the field, Archistar is definitely one of these that we feel great about. So Archistar has several components to it. Archistar is an AI-powered compliance check tool. And the components are a completeness check module on the front end, and then a compliance check module. And the difference between completeness and compliance is completeness check for anybody who has ever accepted drawings for site plan reviews or building plans understands that rarely do you take in a plan and everything is correct on the drawing. You know, you have every city has specifications for their drawings. You'll have things like title block, compass, orientation, scale. Almost always defects are found in the drawings. And what Archistar helps with its completeness check is you can predefine that checklist up front and then have the drawing tested against the checklist simply for the requirements that your jurisdiction has on the drawing. That alone is a huge time saving because you are not expending staff time on these basic requirements that you really, if you could just cross your fingers and hope that applicants would get right, that's what you would wish for. This is an AI tool that helps you get there much faster. And what it does is it's able to report back and send it to the applicant without it ever using staff time to find those defects and send it back to the applicant. The compliance check is more, I think, what we think about, when we're thinking about the codes, building codes, life safety codes, and how buildings either comply or do not comply with the codes. Next slide. So really, really simple, clean interface. It's one of the things that ICC Innovation liked about the Archistar tool right out of the box is just simple use, simple interface. Applicants can simply drag and drop site plan or building drawings right onto this drag and drop area, and they can be submitted. This can be integrated with existing workflows you have with permitting tools such as Municity that Maria will be showing in a little while. Next slide. So what you get as a result is higher quality submissions. What you're seeing here is that submission check where the report is actually created and sent back to the applicant that tells them their drawing either passed, failed, or there's insufficient information. It's giving feedback to the applicant to correct what was wrong with their submission before it ever even gets to staff time and starts the clock ticking on the jurisdiction's shot clock. Next slide. So this gives you an idea of, the assessment versus the building and life safety codes. One of my favorite assessments that I've seen, for example, is building egress. You'll see a floor plan of a building, and in seconds, Archistar can run through and take the length of egress required in a building to get from any one space outside the building. And it's amazing. In seconds, it draws those and immediately flags which egress paths violate code. They're too long. This type of feedback, it happens so fast, and this type of feedback is invaluable to go back to planners, engineers, architects to make corrections to those drawings. Next slide. So Archistar, a fantastic tool. One point of emphasis I want to make, whenever we talk about AI or efficiency in the tools, there is no such thing as auto magic. By no means. A lot of times I'll hear, well, this means I don't need my plans inspectors. That is not true at all. ICC is fully committed to people, process, and technology, and people are an essential part of this. What this does is it aims to eliminate or reduce very specific repetitive type operations that you wish your staff didn't have to do so that they could do other things in more depth, and really leverage their human intelligence and their human judgment for the more nuanced or deeper thinking parts of a submission. Next slide. So now I'm going to hand it over to Maria for an overview on Municity.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate the introduction. Just to get started here, I wanted to actually personify this disembodied voice talking to you all. My name is Maria Dalal. I am a pre-sales engineer with ICC Community Development. I've been working with Municity for about 7 years now, and I'm really excited to talk about our new product. I've been working with the development team on this and our operations team. We're really excited to bring you guys this version of Municity. Another aspect is I would be the person that would be working with you guys as the pre-sales engineer. I'd be working with you and your solutions account rep on a solution for the grant that has to do with Municity. So I'm not just here reading bullets off a slide to you. I'm describing to you what I work with and how it can help you guys and how I would be there for you to craft that solution for your grant. So without further ado, what is Municity? Municity is our software that is permitting code enforcement, but I want to talk about it as it relates to the grant. So the first thing I want to discuss here is Municity and hazard mitigation. So how does Municity address this? And I would say we do this in a couple of different points that I have here. Firstly, through inspection management. This is really the bread and butter of Municity. This gives us the ability to program certain inspections in the manner in which you need them. So what that means is, how often do they need to recur? Do they require certificates? Are there specific signatures that need to be captured? printables like summaries or notices? Do they require specific checklists where you're going to have a point-by-point inspection that you need to go through and attach to an ordinance? And maybe we need to also snap a picture and have a summary document of that. Municity manages all of that from beginning to end. We can do this for fire safety, property compliances, health safety inspections, public assembly. We have a company checklist tracking, which allows us to do that point-by-point inspection. Each inspection can be different. Obviously, your fire safety inspections will be different from your rental property inspections, which would be different from your vacancy inspections. We are able to make sure that each inspection and each point of the inspection addresses exactly what you need while you are on site. That includes, as I mentioned, signature capture and letter generation. And the image I have up on screen for you is from our admin section of Municity, where you can see that all users are able to come in and tailor each checklist themselves. So while we do have a robust support desk that will help you through implementation and can answer questions, we do also give you guys the agency to come in here and make changes as you need them for those one-offs without having to contact the support desk. Another method in which Municity handles hazard mitigation is through our licensing management. So an example I would like to provide for you is one of our clients is managing rental properties and energy efficiencies. The landlord is responsible for energy efficiencies and they need to report on it every so often. They require licensure for that. What Municity does is it intakes that license application. It manages the fees, any sort of internal tasking, so any sort of sign-offs, and then any sort of printable. So if it needs a certificate or a licensure, that gets delivered to the client, and then we don't have to worry about it again until such time it renews. So Municity will have you covered from A to B, from getting your inspection in there, any sort of associated violations or fixes, and even down to the licensures of the owner or property manager. Next slide, please. Our next point here is Municity and plan review. So Municity does a lot of plan review services, mostly through our permitting management. So permitting, I think when we hear that, we mostly think of building permits, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, but we also manage any sort of planning applications or any plan reviews that might go along with those other departmental applications that I previously mentioned. Something that we have within Municity is workflow configuration, which is our process management for your applications. That allows us to build out each application in a unique manner. So it comes with its own specific inspections. It has its own specific fees, its own specific printable at the end. So whether that is a certificate or a permit. With the applications, we can intake specific documents. So any sort of plans. Those plans are then held on the application so that everyone that's involved in the application, from the applicant to the internal staff, has access to that to see that. Municity also has a public portal that allows the municipality or institution to put their applications online. So contractors or homeowners or planners can come online. They can submit an application complete with their plans, and you can have the back and forth through the online portal, interface as well. And then also, if you are looking for something that's a little more robust in terms of tools, like a DigiPlan product from Evolve, we do integrate with plan review software as well. We also actually integrate specifically with DigiPlan electronic plan review from Evolve software. That is a seamless integration in which we can kick out from Municity into DigiPlan, perform any sort of markup tool, and then everything gets pushed back into Municity, so you have one consolidated location for your projects. And then the last few things I want to talk about here is Municity doesn't just intake your applications and manage the processes on the individual applications, but it does manage the processes at large. So notification preferences. So each piece of your workflow process, all the different departments and individuals can be notified. Is that going to be a text message? Is that going to be an email? Is that going to be a browser pop-up? That's an individual preference. We also have dashboard tracking. So any search or any item that you're keeping within Municity, we can have in a dashboard environment, which is essentially a listing. So you could come in and see all of your expiring permits, all of those licensures that need to be re-upped in 30 days or less. So you can send a reminder. All of that is included in the Municity product. Next slide, please. My next point here is Municity and building and code enforcement. So building and code enforcement, I might have buried the lead a bit here because this is really truly where Municity operates best. It was originally developed as a permitting and code enforcement software, and this is where it really shines. We have ICC digital codes in this software through ICC Code Access. All Municity subscriptions come with up to 20 of the ICC code books that we can import. Your local municipal code. So if you have an ALP 360 or an eCode 360, that can also be imported into Municity so that you can perform a lookup, which is what I have up on screen for you. That interface, these ordinances are also compatible with your complaints and violation tracking. So they can be incorporated into your printouts, your notices, your emails. Municity can manage online complaint submittals, so any sort of issue, so cracks in the sidewalks, trash in the yard, they can report that into you, and then you would be able to manage an inspection onto that. Municity also will be managing work orders, assets and maintenance. So let's say if somebody's complained about high grass, you've given them, 2 or 3 notices. They're on their final notice. You have to go out and do an abatement. You're able to set up a work order for that, attach it to the complaint, have everything populate on a dashboard for you to track it. And on that last note with building and code enforcement, James, if you could go to the next slide, please. When you get these certain cases, you need to go out, or even if you see something ad hoc, Municity does have mobile compatibility. What I have up for you here is an example of Municity on a tablet screen, as well as in, I think this is an iPhone screen we have there, and then I believe the tablet's a Galaxy. Municity is device agnostic. You can use it on whatever platform you are comfortable with. It will move it, it will reshape to the screen that you are working off of. So whether you are in the office, whether you are in the field, whether you're at home, you're able to access all of your information with an internet connection. All right. Oh my gosh, and here is our last point here on Municity that I'll be sharing with you guys. Municity and resource tracking and reporting. So not only does Municity manage your processes and your items, such as your inspections or your permits, but there is also resource tracking and reporting tools built into the software for you. Resource tracking, there's a shared calendar, so you are able to see everyone's what they are doing on a given day, everyone's appointments, everybody's inspections. You can put meetings on the calendars to track who's going to be in what meeting regarding what application. Time and materials tracking, we will have tracking in here for example, the work orders that I mentioned. I want to be able to track how many valves I used, or maybe I want to track time. We want to see how long a job took so that when we do the audits for the following year, we have all of that information. Municity has fields that are able to track all of that data. We can also push all of that information into a summary document or reporting, which brings me to my next point here. The built-in reporting features. Municity has a plethora of different categories that we can search across. It has different filters. So if I want to see complaints by department and type, I can. These searches here could be saved. You can run history and see who's run what at what given date. All of these results on these reports can also be exported to a CSV, or they can be also saved to a dashboard. So there are a lot of different functionalities in our system that once your data is in here, so that you can have your data represented in a way that reflects the project, so that you guys can go back and have these meetings or report back to the state. You have everything easily at your fingertips. All right. And then my last slide here is a screenshot of our advanced search query within Municity. So what this allows users to do is come in and search across any category, and this is where you get your logic-based searches. So if you are somebody that loves to tinker with different statements here, so I want a permit, and I want that permit between such and such date. I want that permit from this zip code, and I want that permit with this type of fee on it. You can tailor that exact report, save your results, push it to a report, push it to a dashboard, whatever you're fancy there. We give you the tools for it to make sure that you're getting exactly what you need out of the software. And that is going to be all for me today. Thank you guys for listening about Municity. I hope you found something interesting there, and I look forward to speaking with some of you. And for now, I will turn it over to Phil Anthony to talk about Digital Codes Premium. Thank you.
Excellent. So it's kind of an intermission time here. We got a bunch of PowerPoint slides. Now we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of live version of one of our products. My name is Phil Anthony. I'm with ICC as a digital code solution specialist. So my primary role is helping people with the digital codes access and subscriptions. And James, I don't know if we mentioned at the beginning, are people allowed to post questions in chat? If that's not turned on, go ahead and turn it on. If there are questions, we may not be able to answer them right at the beginning, but as we wrap up, we would be able to see what questions are being asked and make sure we answer those as well too. So I will go to the Digital Codes website here. This is at codes.iccsafe.org. I would think many people are familiar with this already. If not, definitely come visit this. This is where we host Digital Codes. And right now I'm not signed in with a subscription, which I'll talk about in a little bit here, but just want to make you aware, if you haven't been to this page, our digital codes are available to view for free on many of the titles. So if you were to come to iCodes, you wanted to view any of the iCode titles that we have available, you do not need to pay anything. You can view those for free. So for constituents or contractors or anyone that just uses it occasionally, you can view all of the iCodes without having a subscription. You'll notice other titles there, commentaries would be available with a particular subscription plan. But then going over here to the amended codes here for the states, if you live in any of these states, once again, if you wanted to view their amended codes, when you go visit those websites there, you can view the codes in their entirety. So just want to make sure that everyone knows that that option is available. What I'm going to talk about, though, is what you can use the BRIC funding for, is to having an actual subscription. So when you do subscribe to Digital Codes, it's called a Digital Codes Premium subscription. And as you can see, I logged in and the logos have changed to include the fact that I do have the premium tools. One of the other reasons why I'm using the active website here is ICC has a lot of solutions that you're being introduced to that's going to make your jurisdiction work more efficiently. Some of those are going to take a little bit of a consultation to get you up and running, but this one you can go ahead and access right away so you can get a feel for it. And then as the grants come through, you can increase the number of subscriptions or licenses that you have so your entire department can have access. So I am kind of navigating this through you if you want to go visit this now or after. What I did is I clicked on the left-hand menu, and then if I slide down, these are all my favorites here. You can kind of ignore that for right now because I do have a lot. But what I'll run through is the premium features. So when we talk about a premium subscription, we're talking about the premium features that are included with it. And we've redesigned our webpage here to go in a little bit more detail, but as you scroll through, I will quickly speak about each one of these. And then if you are interested, we can schedule a web meeting and talk about your specific jurisdiction needs. As you saw, I got here, I will point that out. You can start a free trial. It truly is free. It's not going to ask any for credit card information or anything like that, and you'll get immediate access for 2 weeks. I'll post that link in the chat, direct link as well too, when I'm done here. But going through some of the highlights here, the ability to, be able to view questions. These, the premium answers are going to be attached to specific code sections. We call this part of our premium insights. So insights would include common questions asked about a code section from our answered by our ICC experts, in addition to seeing why the code changed, cycles from one change in the code section to the next. You can see those original proposals, the hearing videos, and everything as well too. So the premium insights are something that you've probably not seen before if you're only using PDF or a print version. With digital, we can expand the content and the tools to just make you that much more effective in your daily work. AI Navigator has been a highly respected and successful tool that people like having. It's been launched over, I think, almost 3 years ago now. And, you know, we talk about AI doesn't solve all the problems, but this is going to make your code research a little bit faster. You would be able to ask common language questions. And the nice thing about our AI Navigator is that, you know, you hear all the strange things that can happen when you're using AI. With our AI Navigator, when you ask a code question, it's not like popping it into a web search engine. It is only going to look for the answer within the titles that are in your subscription. So the answer you get back will be accurate and will be able to cite a specific code section, subsection, and everything, and almost always gives you a couple other options that may be the exact code question that you're asking. So just a little bit more compliance calculators. If you want to look up and see values of occupancies, we continue to add more tools as part of our premium features. So as more of these calculators are being developed, you'll have access to them as well. We also do integrate several of our architectural tools, software, so that makes it easy for people who are designing the buildings. And then finally, I'll wrap it up here, move into another area, but the premium insights, that's what I was just talking about. So within the iCodes, you can see code change details, those hearing videos. The commentaries would be a separate, it's not available in free view, but I'm going to go over the different plans that are available real quick. And we talked about the AI Navigator, but even if you're within a title and you want to see where all the occurrences of egress or basement or something like that, makes it extremely simple to search for those contextual phrases that you're looking for, much faster than just trying to find it in a print or PDF version. And then once again, all the extra features that you wouldn't be aware of if you haven't used digital codes. If there was a code change from 21 to 24, for example, that would be in a blue typeface, so you know that was a change there. Even taking it further, if you're in a 24 version of those cycles, you'd be able to see the codes that are under proposal to be changed. So you can look ahead for any codes that you do follow, what expected changes might be happening and are being voted on currently. And then, yes, the ability to create bookmarks and notes on any of your code sections allows you to easily reference and organize those by categories so you can find information. And, once again, if you are using this in a group setting, these bookmarks and notes will be viewable by everyone within your department for collaboration. Advantages you have there. And then, yes, of course, this is at the bottom, but one of the first reasons why people like having access to Digital Codes Premium is that it opens up the ability to copy and paste. You can print the sections of the codes. If you want to save it to a PDF in your desktop, you're able to do that as well too. And just briefly, I'm going to wrap up here within 2 minutes. But just to go ahead, let me go to the home page again, open up one of my titles here. So if I were to take this, once again, easy to navigate. As you can see, this is web-based. So it's whatever device you have, your desktop, your laptop you travel with, tablet, phone, anytime you have an active browser, you can access all of the content, all of the features that are in here. We do have a app that you can use for offline. If you do have no internet connection or data connection, you can at least download the full 15 full titles to your app, where you can at least view the entire code book, navigate through the index and through all the code sections as well too. And just point that out real quick here. The notes will be contained there. You can always filter by those, and then the insights I mentioned. Too much to go into detail now, but I do go into all this information when I schedule web meetings to go specifically through what your particular jurisdiction needs. And then finally, to wrap it up, once again, I will promote the fact that try the free trial. And then if you are looking to get a general idea on pricing, I'll just give you an overview. So from that left-hand nav again, features and pricing, the bottom one is pricing. So the 3 plans that we have available here, just it's easy to go ahead and explain what these are. We've made this simple to choose from. Our base plan is simply the I-codes. So any of those I-code titles, as you saw, we have the current 24 cycle, goes back to the 2000 cycle. So you're always going to have the latest version of any title for the cycle it's in. You're going to have backwards reference to the year 2000 cycle. And then as new codes are added, those will be automatically updated in there. The professional, we include, first of all, the I-codes that are with base. And the additional one is going to be any amended codes that we have available will be included in professional. So for instance, if you're in New York, Florida, California, that would be the package that you'd want to get at least to have your state amended codes. And then finally, complete, to be frank, is the most popular option. It is the one that costs the most of the 3 here, but I believe we're actually close to 3,000 titles now. And usually the first question I ask people if this is right for them is if they're interested in the commentaries. So the commentaries is the first plan where those would be included. But in addition to the commentaries, as mentioned, there's almost 3,000 titles in there, that significant changes, revision history. About 70% of the standards that are referenced in the I-codes are available for you to view as well too. So once again, any of the plans will have the same, we call them code intelligent, let's call them premium features, copy paste, AI navigator. So that will be consistent through all 3 of your choices here. The difference is the plan is the number and type of titles that would be here. And then finally, I will point out, if you want to start running some scenarios, feel free to hit subscribe. Doesn't automatically commit you, but some people don't realize they can do that. From here, you can start looking to see how much a subscription might cost with the license quantity and everything. And as you can see, as the applied discounts there, those are all there to give you a general idea. So I just wanted to show that real quick. And then finally, since enterprise is over here on the right-hand side, this isn't a different plan. Basically, if you wanted to have dedicated seats, I guess I should mention that when you acquire a license, however many you acquire, they can either be dedicated individuals or shared in a concurrent group, meaning that you could have, for example, like 1 license for 4 people. All 4 people could go into that group and have all the access to the premium tools and content, but only 1 at a time if there's only 1 license. So that is a solution if you're looking to hit a budget amount. However, if people are saying they can't get in because there's not enough licenses, then we can discuss what the enterprise platform is, where we use dedicated seats. So everyone is always able to access and get in. And there's a few more additional features that aren't available, like for having multiple admins and other things like that we can discuss. But since we realize you'd be getting dedicated seats instead of sharing them, there is a little bit of a discount there. But we're looking to talk to those organizations that have at least those 20 users there, where it makes it more effective. So I will wrap up now. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hoodie in just a second. But once again, I did want to mention, feel free to go in and try the free trial. It's something you can start on right away. We put it in a couple different areas on the website, but I will post it in there along with my email address. And I will conclude my presentation here on digital codes.
Thanks, Phil. This is Brian Hoodie, and I'm going to talk to you guys today about Laserfiche. I've been working at ICC with Laserfiche for 22 years. We have a significant amount of installations across the country. Generally, Laserfiche would probably be your backend. It has a very easy to understand Windows Explorer style interface, allowing you to find your information. Most of the information that we're talking about are probably going to be some kind of permanent record, but it could be modern records, it could be old records. It'll handle electronic records, paper records, as well as it could also apply records management schedules to your actual folders and files that will exist in the repository. It does have some modern AI technologies that allow you to sort information quicker, as well as look up information with deeper searches within the Laserfiche repository. It does meet a lot of the compliance goals that we find with local municipalities and government. It has a lot of different compliances. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can just see the ones right there. The DoD compliance and the WAG compliance for the ADA compliant documents that you might share it on the web. Laserfiche does allow a lot of secure access to documents for the public if you want to, as well as secure access to specific records that might have specific information on it, like a social security number or something like that. You can redact as well as lock down individual folders and files within the Laserfiche system. You can also automate processes within the Laserfiche repository. So the ability to automate a process such as contract management or something like a FOIA request can be done with the Laserfiche system. That the forms can integrate with the Laserfiche repository, allowing you to save pertinent information into the repository and then route it for approval as well. It is generally considered the records management system, so it's highly integratable. We integrate with a lot of third-party systems, a lot of building, planning, zoning platforms, including Municity, OpenGov, Acela, et cetera. Generally, folks do want to put the information, especially if it's an archived record, into the content management system rather than having it spread over multiple locations. And you can do that with the Laserfiche repository and the integration platform as well. So it does also act as a disaster recovery system. It is cloud-based. There are, however, on-premise systems if you want. The cloud obviously is stored in the United States on AWS. So you're also not having to worry about hosting servers, upgrading, et cetera. It's all done automatically by Laserfiche and AWS. Next slide, please. And you can see it is a very simple interface to learn. It is a folder-based application. As I mentioned earlier, any kind of record can go into it. It doesn't really care about the size. So if it's a 38 by 48 map, go ahead, replicate that, put that into the Laserfiche system. Minutes, ordinances, legacy permits, all that kind of information can be put into the Laserfiche system, along with any corresponding metadata, parcel IDs, section block and lot, address, permit numbers, all that kind of stuff can be collected and put into the Laserfiche repository. And then today, with using some of the AI technology, it can also help me to actually pull that information into the system from an image, for example. I can pull in pertinent information based upon even handwritten documents, like a handwritten permit from a legacy permit from years ago can be indexed and put into the Laserfiche system. And again, that using security, I can actually present specific information to the public if I so desire, trying to cut down on questions, FOIA requests, that kind of stuff by presenting that information to the public, again, in a secure manner. Next slide, please. And this is just a quick heat map of our client base across the country. Again, we have been installing and supporting these systems for close to 25 years. So we have the know-how to get your system up and running. Again, we can do the integration with your third-party system in most cases. We can also convert old legacy content management systems into Laserfiche. We have a full training staff, project management. We have a help desk that's located in the United States. And we also have programmers on staff that can help with various things such as business process automation, electronic forms, that kind of stuff, as well as integrating with third-party systems. If you have any questions, please just let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them. Wayne, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. So now I get to talk about MapLink. MapLink is a complementary service specifically used for researching and documenting zoning code information down to the parcel level. The way I explain it is MapLink is a better lens through which to read zoning code, as opposed to using keyword searches or table of contents or indexes or any traditional way of researching zoning code, because the one constant all zoning codes of all jurisdictions have is they are place dependent. It always matters where you are. Therefore, GIS or geospatial information is always the best way to find out what applies to this one area I'm interested in. So as it relates to BRIC funding and disaster planning, some of the most common questions that come out of it, not only in that case, but in normal everyday use, is what can I do with my property after a disaster? Or, where can I put a business? Many properties are significantly changed. And what we saw, I'll use the California wildfires example again, but it applies to anything: hurricanes, flooding, any natural disaster where significant changes, occur to buildings and properties. There is often the question of reuse and, what can I do with my property? Can I change a use on my property, or where can I put a business? We now have vacant land. We have land that's changed uses and allowable uses. And one of the biggest delays we saw in rebuilding is the few staff members who were qualified or available to answer detailed zoning questions. Even if the question is simple, there's a bottleneck. There's a bottleneck for those few people that can get in there and answer questions authoritatively for constituents. That's where MapLink helps, because it's a publicly available website that makes it far easier for laypersons to very quickly and efficiently understand what zoning applies to one particular parcel. So it has an interactive zoning component where there's GIS, but it also brings up parcel detail reports. It improves public clarity. Again, it allows the public to answer very simple questions, even as simple as, can I put a hair salon, home occupation business in my residential property? It allows your staff to avoid some of those commonly asked questions. Far fewer inquiries coming into the desk. This proven ROI in this tool, we've done a few case studies and we found that the average jurisdiction that has implemented MapLink saves between 20 and 40 hours a week not answering repetitive zoning questions. And in the end, it results in better compliance. You get better applications, you get faster applications, anywhere you are in the process when it comes to researching zoning code that applies to a property. Next slide. So this gives you an idea of how MapLink is working. It's basically taking various layers of GIS information. So satellite views, you can see, the built environment as it currently exists, what's currently there on the property, what environmental factors may be considered into, the cost of developing the property or to clearing, or things like, wetland overlays. We're able to take all of these GIS overlays and layer them so that in the end, when you click on a parcel, you're seeing the zoning, those zoning essentials such as dimensional requirements, allowable uses, and the procedures that apply to that parcel based on what overlays may apply beyond just a base zoning district. Reading out a base zoning district can be really easy, but when you start adding on environmental layers, downtown business layers, corridor transportation corridors, historic overlays, tends to complicate zoning code. Zoning code is not easy to read, and this tool makes it far easier to read that essential zoning code. Next slide. MapLink is fully adaptive design. So no matter what device you use, MapLink's a great tool to use in the field. The design of the page flexes with if you're using a mobile phone, if you're using a tablet, desktop. It's flexible, just like many of ICC Innovation's tools are with adaptive design. Next slide. So I would be remiss if I don't cover, a few pitfalls. We want to give you a heads up as a service. Innovation pitfalls to look out for. The intention of the BRIC grant program is to fund improvements in service and processes in time of need. And jurisdictions must make good decisions in procurement and implementation. And so a couple of these couple of these pitfalls that we've seen through our experience in being involved in many of them with many, thousands of clients all across North America is a few of them are over customization. There are a lot of technology players in the marketplace who don't really have subject matter expertise necessarily in codes or community development or the development process in general, but they're purely technologists and they'll promise customization. When you start asking detailed questions about development processes, procedures, and you start to hear, oh, we can make it do that, we can make it do that, that should be a red flag for you, heads up. Be aware of under-resourcing. Anybody who comes in as a technologist and sort of promises you super lean resources, sort of what I call auto magic, or claims in staff time savings that just don't seem realistic, that should be a heads up. No metrics is a big pitfall for many communities. You have to have KPIs or ROI targets in hand before you start the project. Don't let the technologist or the service provider lead the way on that. You really have to understand what your priorities are, what you're trying to save, and a good provider will work with you to provide those. And the last one is siloed ownership. Our most successful implementations that we see are with jurisdictions that work across department lines. I know that politically sometimes that's challenging, but we've seen a marked difference in jurisdictions that are able to work across those silos and bring in, if there's anybody tangential beyond, let's say it's the community development department that starts an initiative, bring in that IT department, bring in the GIS, bring in the planning department, bring in whomever might have a stake in this right up front. And we've seen consistently that those projects are more successful over time. Next slide. So to wrap up, key takeaways, it's really important to choose the right tool for your community. There is no cookie cutter. Your neighbor's needs may be significantly different than your own. Don't go just on, geography. Really take a look at characteristics about your community that make it unique and make sure that you're doing thorough research to make sure that solutions you choose are right for your community. Return on investment needs more than just money. That's really important to have a very wide idea of what ROI is. It's about service. It's about equity. It's about taking care of all of your constituents' needs beyond just dollars. The dollars are certainly important, but you have to make sure your ROI considerations are broad. Plan for continuous improvement and additions of data over time. This is a huge shortfall. A lot of people will buy a system or a solution and they just don't take into account what is the changing data. Again, this kind of wraps back to why we feel like ICC is a great partner in these solutions, because we are the holders of content. We are familiar with making amendments. We are quite familiar with what it's like to keep that code content up to date that has to feed solutions like we've seen today. And lastly, ICC has a unique mix of technical training and code subject matter expertise to help you develop the best solutions in the marketplace. So keep us in mind. Next slide. That about wraps up our presentation. Again, for any contact, I know Phil gave his contact info. Anybody feel free, any of the solutions today, if you already know your ICC representative for solutions, reach out to them. If not, my email is right there, wchilds@iccsafe.org. For BRIC grant questions in particular, alevy@iccsafe.org. He would be more than happy to answer those questions about the specific administration of the BRIC program, and look at our website for digital solutions. I'd like to open it up for a quick Q&A now. Does anybody have any questions? James, maybe you can help as these come in.
Yep, we had a couple questions come in. One of them was if we can share the PowerPoint slides out with everyone, and I will include that in my follow-up message, which will be tomorrow. It'll also include the link to what's going to be the recording of this webinar, and also all the contact information and other follow-up actions that you can take with the information you're receiving today. So that'll be all there. Our other question is somebody who says, our city already uses Laserfiche. What we lack is the staffing resources to scan documents into the system. Would the grant allow us to hire an outside vendor for scanning purposes? And Wayne, I'm not sure if you know the answer, or perhaps Brian might want to chime in from the Laserfiche side.
Yeah, this is Brian. I do not know if that would be covered as far as scanning, hiring a scanning vendor is concerned. We can probably research that and get back to you.
I definitely would want to bounce that off Aaron for the specifics of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would fall under.
If we know who asked that question, we can get back to you with an answer definitively.
Yep. Yeah, Jane, we'll get back to you with a definitive answer. So no other questions have come in yet, but we'll give it a moment. And as I said, after this session ends, I'll be able to access the recording, and I got to just process that a little bit, and then tomorrow morning I can get that out to everyone. So, oh, and somebody else, Susie said she would like that answer as well. So once we know that, Susie, I'll get that answer to you as well. And since more than one person asked, I'll probably get the answer out to everyone. So there might be others that are interested in that as well. All right, and I know we are slightly over time, but we did get through all the information. So we'll give it another moment here to see if anyone else submits any questions in the question box before we end our session. But again, thank you to Wayne and Phil, Maria, Brian, and Aaron for the great presentations and all the information. That was very useful about BRICS and what it can be used for. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So Wayne, I think that might be it. I'll hand it back to you for a final message to everyone.
Thank you all very much for investing your time in us today. We greatly appreciate it. Have a good day.